Welcome to my 3 dimensions. This is part 2 for OpenSCAD tutorials. I would recommend watching the previous part as the link will be there in the description below, and in which I talk about the primitive shapes and the basic orientation of OpenSCAD. So in this video I will be teaching you 3 fundamental functions. These functions will be required for any OpenSCAD program or CAD file you make, as this just helps you to change those primitive shapes by moving them around as the first step. So as you can see, it's as I've already written it over here, where this first function is translating an object. For all those who don't know basic geometry, translating is moving the object from one point to the other on the grid. And OpenSCAD is based on grid points entirely. So again, we have the X, Y, and Z axis. The point that we would be moving would be the bottom leftmost point. So let's begin. I will move the point 10 units on the X axis, on the Y axis. So this is just moving the cuboid on the grid. But what if you want the center point of the cuboid to move? For that, you would first have to mention, while you're making the cube, all you need to do is after you enter the dimensions, put a comma and write center equals to true, which will make the center of the cube the midpoint of it. See, so the center of the cube is 0. Now when I move it 10 by 10 by 10 and move it one at a time so you could see the difference. So as you can see, the center of the cube is at 10 points on the X. So now we move it 10 to the Y and 10 to the Z. For the translation function, it's very simple. You write translate, you put brackets with square brackets with the X, Y, and Z axis, close them, and put the curly brackets. So between the curly brackets would be your shapes to move them. We can even mention the orientation completely different. As you can see here, we don't have any curly braces, but the function is the same. The output is the same. The difference between these two is when we have multiple shapes, it would be much easier to go with this method. This is for moving one shape at a time. So next we have the function rotate. Rotating the shape is also quite simple. As you can see, I have a regular old cuboid. Again, I have rotate brackets with the square brackets XYZ axis, and then close with the curly brackets. So again, the curly brackets is only when we have multiple shapes. We can always just remove the curly brackets and have the keyboard. Whenever you see this symbol, this means the code is continuing down. This means the code is getting continued down. If I press enter, it goes away. So this is part of one line. When we need to rotate the X, Y, and Z axis, the X will be rotating from this, as the X will be, this is the X axis over here, you can see here. So this will rotate around the X axis. The second part is the Y axis, where we'll rotate around this angle from here. And the Z axis is rotating like that. So we'll start by rotating 45 degrees on the X axis. We'd be going this side. We can even mention negative 45 will go exactly opposite. Then I'll just show you the other examples too. This is 45 on the Y axis and this is 45 on the Z axis. We could always enter multiple options, but this is just to show you the example. You would get a shape like this. This is basically the intro for getting complicated shapes and paths. So next we have something quite unique. This is not used at a large scale, but it's quite useful too. Mirror. So you see here I have the cube, the original cube with the dimensions 3 to 1, the function mirror, the curly braces. So in this, I would recommend having the curly braces because we need to translate the cube. Otherwise, if we don't have the translate function here, the cube would join the other cube. Therefore, we need to keep it separate. And as you can see, I told right before, this is one line of code. The mirror function, again, x, y, and z axis lines. So the x and then y. So the value just needs to be 1, as we just need to show which axis we are moving. Even if I put this 10, there won't be any difference to it. Just to show that we're using this axis, then we have 1 here, and then you can see it separately. This is moving the original, having a copy of the original cube around. So this is it for this video. I'll see you next time, in which I will teach you how to mold the shapes differently. Thank you, and see you until next time.